Welcome back, my friend, and in this tutorial together we're going to explore the peaceful disciplines. We all need to be disciplined with traits that elicit a sense of peace, especially so because the one area in life that we are all good at failing in is to find balance and to be at peace. Feeling at peace within the mind, the body, and the soul is essential to a loving life. And having these qualities, I know, can be very difficult, especially when you're dealing with a life of turmoil and stress, right? There's so much going on out there, so much conflict, so much uncertainty, so much noise, so much stress that's always going on somewhere in our life that threatens our peace. And also to strive forward in life, to make progress in life, does come with the obsessive attachment to the work, the routines and processes that it takes to build, support and nurture life. And therefore, having peaceful traits is essential to act as a counterbalance. But if you don't make room for peace, or if you don't take time out to find balance, you will become the vessel for the unhealthy byproducts of anxiety, stress, and fatigue. And therefore, to counterbalance the efforts of creativity and progress, you must take time out to heal and harmonize the environments within and without, balancing self-development with self-care and care of the other. To do that, you will need the disciplines of nurture, compassion, and contribution to heal and harmonize the mind, body, and soul, which are virtues that can be cultivated by adopting the peaceful disciplines, which are the archetypal traits known as the environmentalist, the sage, and the saint. So let's first discuss what it means to be the environmentalist. Who is the environmentalist archetype and discipline? The environmentalist is an advocate for natural living, where the superpower is harmonization. And the environmentalist lives by the motto, I am the guardian of life. The environmentalist is a part of you that loves the freedom, the freshness and the tranquility of the great outdoors. There is a strong desire within to enjoy the pristine landscapes of unspoiled nature, to explore parks, national forests, mountain ranges and coastlines, coupled to a strong distaste for those smog-ridden cities. The environmentalist is concerned with the preservation of the earth and preservation of the mind body, and pays close attention towards the remedies, projects and movements that support and nourish life. The environmentalist is one that never produces unnecessary waste, never overconsumes, and chooses to boycott companies and brands that produce toxic products, where there is a desire to avoid the chemicalized, sterilized and artificialized man-made products that pollute, destroy and degenerates nature and life. So when are you in the preserving mode? Well, the environmentalist archetype is active when you are the explorer, the appreciator, the cultivator, the preserver and the lover of all things organic, wholesome, natural and pure. When attuned with the stillness and silence and simplicity of nature, the environmentalist within you is being human and is at peace. Sadly, however, the maze-like structures and artificial systems of organized society have subverted the instinctive and rhythmic cycles of human nature. Living within a sick society that is illness-prone, vice-ridden, heavily polluted, makes it a disturbing ordeal for a person who is the environmentalist at heart. also, when plugged into the media-driven horrors of a sick world that is bloated with overconsumption, lustful waste, depletion and destruction of natural resources, the environmentalists can start to feel disconnected from culture, depressed even, and resentful towards other, which is the opposite of being peaceful. However, it is beneficial to be the environmentalist. The environmentalist is the most organic part of the human experience, and yet the most neglected. So to find peaceful balance, we must let go of those demanding work schedules of an over-engineered and stressful lifestyle and pull up that sign that reads, "If you need me, I'll be deep within the forest, searching for portals of tranquility." And the environmentalist will help you do that. The environmentalist is a great outdoors enthusiast that will enhance your lifestyle with the adventures, activities, escapisms, and relaxations that rejuvenates the mind-body. The environmentalist does not force life, but flows with it, living from present moment to present moment and taking no fault for the past or future. With the environmentalist, the way is unself-conscious, to be intuitively spontaneous and genuine, to throw yourself to the wind and ride it. The environmentalist is also a discipline that avoids toxic, processed and packaged foods and will help you to limit the consumption of foods that cause acidosis, degeneration and dis-ease within the mind-body, prompting you instead to nourish the mind-body with organic sustenance. And you are most likely to see the environmentalist engage with the good deeds of community projects and business activities that are focused on natural living and sustainability, which then leads us both onto the next divine discipline called the sage. Who is the sage? The sage is the philosopher and wisdom keeper of the ages, and it has the superpower of empathetic communication with the motto, paint the canvas of life with the colour of language. The sage is a free spirit with a strong passion for life itself and devotes his or her time towards sharing with others the universal wisdoms of human nature and reality, guiding other souls to make sense of their own life and awaken their consciousness to a more elevated state of enlightened serenity. So when are we being the sage? We are the sage when taking a break from the working routines and structures of life so that we can study and learn about the world that we live in. The sage archetype is both a student and proponent of syncretic wisdom, which includes the study of science, spiritualism, cosmology, mythology, psychology, cultural history, and philosophy. And if you really want to know more about this reality, these are the subjects that you would be keen to explore. Not only that, the sage is a wise soul with the good judgment to not be conclusive with viewpoints and instead retains a sparkle of innocence and curiosity whilst remaining open-minded towards critical debate and personal error. And that's why the sage is always able to maintain intrigue, liberalism, and be cool-headed. The sage attribute, however, is lost to the stake of absolutism and lost to the adherence of a set doctrine, which is to say, when being final with conclusions that make no allowance for improvement or correction, we have lost that openness, innocence, and wonder. We no longer flow with life and with ease, but instead we become too rigid and resolute in our thinking. This is when the sage becomes the preacher. That's because when we abandon neutrality and liberalism to adopt exclusive ideologies and beliefs, we have become set in our ways and claims. On the flip side of that, when being too open-minded, the sage can become convoluted with concepts and ideas which can make this part of who we are difficult to understand. When the mind is jumping from one idea to the next or absorbing a variety of information, there can be incoherency and confusion more often than not. And life is so much easier when you can think and communicate with simplicity and fluency. So what are the beneficial assets of being the sage? The sage will engage with various schools of knowledge and nurture the mind with provocative styles of thinking. Never is there a dull moment within the dynamic mind of a sage. There is no need to be with people all the time, nor be concerned with the world out there when the mind is a delightful playground of entertaining and intriguing thoughts. When multi-knowledgeable and a multi-layered thinker, solitude soon becomes one of the favourite moods. Also, the sage is a student of thoughtful inquiry and loves to explore the deeper meanings of reality. Acting with both prudence and shrewd with discernment, the sage will clarify that which was once unknowable. And then, with increased knowledge about the world, the sage gains a sense of confidence, security, and certainty. And those three qualities of confidence, security, and certainty is what brings about a sense of peacefulness within you. For when you are self-assured, you have nothing to feel worried or insecure about. The sage is a master of communication, and communication is the most powerful skill to master. The resourcefulness of any individual has a direct correlation with his or her ability to communicate ideas, convey value, influence people, and organize projects. Great communication skills make for a more proficient, efficient, and less problematic lifestyle. The profound intelligence of the sage also makes this archetype a great emissary, teacher, and conversationalist. A wordsmith with poetic flair and creative linguistics, the sage can be a lyricist that deploys wit and charm, dramatic storytelling, playful banter, satire, and serious principle, in which to win over the hearts and minds of a willing audience, whilst driving home the important lessons of life. Being the sage does make you someone worth listening to, more likable, more worthy, and of more value to those that you know and that you can potentially serve in this life, which now leads us nicely onto the next divine discipline called the saint. Who is the saint? The saint is the angelic and selfless element of the soul, of the superpower of virtue. And the saint lives by the motto, I am with love and light. The saint is the redeemer from wrongdoing and refrains from habits that lead to impurity and desecration of the mind-body. The saint enjoys the positive reinforcement of exalting to a place of higher order. The saint is a characteristic trait that is keen to share remedies of healing and sanctitude and help others to heal themselves. So when are you being the virtuous saint? The saint is the part of you that is detached from the type of egoic desires, expectations, and divisiveness that leads to inner and outer conflict. Within the sanctitude of pure conscious awareness, the saint is the part of you that exists in a graceful state of beingness within the 0 point of balance, and therefore is free from the reactive, impulsive, conditioned thoughts. The saint is the part of you that is untroubled by the egoic neuroticisms of the mind. The saint archetype is at peaceful oneness with all and has empathy toward the unresolved plights of the human experience. Without expectation for compensation or reward, the saint is a part of you that engages with selfless acts of kindness and contribution, where you do good deeds without needing or wanting anything in return. However, when charitable deeds have come with a self-promotion, virtue signalling, and the anticipation of gaining favour in this life or the next, what one thinks is a saintly act has become insincere. That's because we lose our halo when we bargain for virtue. Disingenuous virtue, which is to do good only with the intention to get good back, really is a transaction. We are being good for the sake of recognition or reward, and not being good for the sake of being good itself. Even when an individual is convinced that they are being saintly, it is often the ego that has latched on to the idea and character of being saintly. The ego is the antithesis of the saint, because the ego bargains with every aspect of life, desiring more positions of power, control, and recognition, and therefore the ego sees the spiritual pathway as another way to fulfill its desire. Not to say that being the saint with a good heart is all good. In his or her genuine desire to help others, the saint can overstep the mark of goodwill by imposing upon others the will of his or her virtue. And there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. We can smother people by being too nice, too caring, too attentive. Where some people, and especially those who are reserved and cautious, do not like too much of a good thing, and so they are the first to resist. And ironically, in the practice of doing good deeds, the saint is often knee deep within the bad deeds of the people that he or she is helping, which can be a burden to undertake. So what are the beneficial assets of being the saint? Well, the saint is virtuous with good judgment, temperance, compassion, courage, optimism, and charity, and with the mission to seed the earth with services that raise the human spirit. The saint is a beacon of light, guiding people away from the travesty of the human condition, a pillar of strength that provides comfort and support for those in need of counsel, giving dissolution to people that are in dis-ease, and giving deliverance from evil to help those that have suffered harm, loss, and injury. The saint is a part of you that is also in close union with the universal source. The saint is a part of you that knows he or she is the true immortal inner self, the beingness, the principle, the vital spark of life, the indestructible causation of the physical body. Within that meditative state of pure beingness, the saint will help you transcend from the troubled mind of the ego to find peaceful serenity more than less. Even when confronted by the endless and unexpected dramas and conflicts of life, the saint part of you can remain detached from the reactive impulses of the ego. And as the saint, when you have transcended conditioned thought, you are able to review the contents of the mind and resolve the karmic lessons to gain their virtuous qualities. To then exercise that virtue in the real world is to undo the habitual vices and immoralities that have always caused one to have a toxic mind-body. The ultimate exaltation is to have dissolved the ego, where you are no longer terrorized by the egoic warrior and fearer, and where you are able to rise above the discontented mind. Rising above the saint to find yourself on a higher self plane of life is where you will find peacefulness. So that is it, my friend. You now have a clear idea of the type of characteristic, roles and traits that you can adopt as divine disciplines to exalt and excel your life from the inside out. All of those 9 different archetypes, from the creative, the progressive and the peaceful disciplines, are the type of higher self traits that will elevate your mind and repurpose your intentions towards manifesting a life that is truly rewarding for you. So for now, I want you to keep those 9 disciplines in the back of your mind as you move forward to master the wealth exaltation game strategy. This will be the game strategy of rediscovering, rebuilding and reinventing your psychology so that you can unleash your power from within, where you will transition into a fully actualized higher self individual that operates at a peak performance and cultivates positive results in your life, so that you can start to cultivate a life that you truly desire, so that you can nurture, develop and maximize your potential in any area of your life. And I will see you next when you master the wealth exaltation game strategy.